And today, our guest that we have on, I'm so excited to introduce him here in a minute, because he is going to be setting the tone and setting the stage for lots of other people like him, beings like him, that are co-creating this new paradigm with us. And there's many wonderful qualities that are going to come up today that are going to be shared with us. And so without further ado, I want to talk to you guys and tell you guys, the ones that don't know, about Lance White. Lance White was born in Santa Barbara, California in 1950. In 1983, he was told that he contracted HIV, and for over 30 years, he has miraculously transformed that experience of living with HIV and AIDS through aligning with spirit. In 2006, he was asked if he wanted to do a weekly internet radio show, and this marked the birth of his new show on BBS Radio. It's called A Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. For over 6 years, he has spoken with the foremost authorities on a wide array of metaphysical topics. In 2007, he wrote an irreverent account of his journey and descent through many, many dark nights of the soul, called Tales of a Zany Mystic. And this book is offered at Amazon Books. His tale includes 5 years in an esoteric school studying G.I. Gurdjieff and P.D. Ouspensky. His story also chronicles decades of alcoholism and drug abuse, struggles with sexual identity as an openly gay male, encounters with angels, and ultimate triumph. The last few chapters are dedicated to discussing the various cycles, which all come to an end this year. Reviews are unanimously positive and glowing. Today, he is creating a healing center in Placerville, California, that's designed to tap into the energies of a spiritual vortex, documented scientifically and proven by the GOAT doctor of the Sierras. He's also writing a new book designed to empower those who are aligning with spirit to raise their vibration and move through the tumultuous waters with ease. Welcome to the Juice Bar, Lance White.
Oh, thank you, Kornelia. I'm delighted to be here. That was a wonderful introduction.
Yay, I feel like we're old friends, and I'm just so excited. I'm just giving you a big hug, and I'm glad that you're here.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here, too.
Wonderful.
Well, we're all family.
We are all family. And I just wanted to give you an introduction and welcome you in. And now what we're going to do is Marianne is going to share with us the planetary update that Anelia put together, that the three of us then can discuss a little bit about where we are with everything.
Sure.
And then we'll go into digging into you and who you are and your story and what you're doing and what your passion is.
All right.
And all that good stuff.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm really looking forward to this discussion. So this is a planetary update for August 29th. That was 2 days ago. From Anelia. She sent this in to us. So I'm quoting her. As we move closer and closer to what our species considers to be an important moment in time, in other words, December 2012, we are going heavily into resistance, which is manifesting as barriers. When we think of barriers, we often think of something outside ourselves, something that is in our environment, something that stops us from doing something, a wall that stops us leaving a location or entering a location. Blocks and reasons why we can't do something reach somewhere or even sometimes the energy to accomplish an outcome. We are approaching the last hurdles in a linear time perspective to deciding upon our maximum potential experience in physical existence. Our decisions are based very often on our emotions. When these emotions run wild without checking what they are, we can make rash decisions or decisions that do not support our evolutionary journey One of the crippling factors of Western society is that our emotions are second-class citizens. That only a small range of emotions that are broadcast and perpetuated in the media and in our society are fear, the desire to be loved. These two, the fear and the desire to be loved. Our emotions are the fuel behind our manifestation ability, and their connection is literal. So if fear is felt, fear situations are manifested in our reality. If wanting to be loved is felt, then we are manifesting the want and no love. That's why we're hitting barriers. These barriers we are hitting can have two purposes. One is that they are pointing the way to a positive outcome, or that they are stopping us from reaching a positive outcome. The way to tell them apart is to look at the barrier and your end result. What is it that is preventing you from achieving or reaching? If it is based on fear, anger, frustration, sadness, or anger, then it's a negative barrier. In other words, go in there and process those negative emotions, because the barrier is a program that is trying to stop you doing whatever it is that you came here to do. If, on the other hand, the barrier is filled with joy and love at the prospect of moving away from what you are trying to do, then it is pointing in a correct action. Stop your journey and move it in a different direction. Unquote.
Yeah, so I bet we can all relate to this right now. What has your experience been, Lance, with what Anelia is talking about here?
Oh, she's calling it right on the money. I mean, I'm going through exactly what she's talking about. And for me, it seems that how this process works is that it's like numerous spirals within spirals. So there will be a period of time when the astrological and the energetic influences from the universe, the cosmos, are stimulating a certain kind of reaction. And then, as she said, we have all the control paradigms that are fighting furiously to retain and regain and take further control over humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm finding that I'll go through a low period where it seems as if my consciousness is not as present, and things are just not going the way that I feel that they should be. The inspiration isn't there, and then I spiral out of it and go on this wonderful wave of bliss and following my creativity. So I have attempted to see how I can expedite raising my vibrations through these periods. And it really is as simple as making the choice.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been experiencing. And, of course, we have, full moons and new moons and so on and so forth. So there's a lot going on. And this is a particularly difficult time for me personally and for everybody that I know from the radio show. And it's also an enlightening time. There are discoveries being made that, we aren't hearing about over here in the United States, so that are very positive for the planet. So it seems that the key to this is, just as Ania said, to release the negative emotions, which are not real. There's no real place in the human physiology for negative emotions. We have an emotional center, but that is not designed to harbor negative emotions. The negative emotions are all learned. So anytime I'm in a negative state, I have to look at that and realize, well, this is my ego operating. There's something that my personality or my ego is not happy about. And so it's real easy to identify when I've slipped in my vibration just by looking at what is my compassion, what am I feeling? Am I feeling love in this moment? Am I noticing the spirit of the birds and the trees and the bees and all the wonderful nature spirits that are around me? And if the answer is no, then I know what I have to do. I just have to be aware. And I love the way Anelia put it, to allow. You allow the situation to be. You don't resist it. You don't try to fight it, because that makes it more real.
So that's your processing. That's how you process your negative feelings, your negative emotions.
Right. And we're programmed to be, as you mentioned in the prelude, we're programmed to be negative. One of the biggest proponents of that is the television set and movies. There is a horrendous amount of negative programming and subtle programming that is occurring at levels that we are not conscious of. We're not fully conscious at this level yet. We're moving towards it, towards full consciousness. But those who are in control of this particular planet know all of this and have known all of this, and it's been a very long, steady process of erosion of our human heart capability and of our ability to be empathic and feel. And to me, it's the ability to feel what another living life form, or an organic life form, is feeling, that separates us, and our humor as well, which separates us from robotics and, just a heartless creation that is designed to degenerate and eventually fall apart, which is what's happening now.
And Lance, do you find that it's more difficult for men to feel?
Yes. Now, there's a caveat to that. Being gay, I've been allowed, through all my pain and imaginary pain and suffering about, and torment about society's judgments, and having to explore all these underground avenues, that people don't realize are out there for gay people, gay clubs and this and that and the other thing. I've been allowed to open my emotions pretty much all my life. And I think that has given me in particular, I can't speak for all gay people, but I think it's given many of us an opportunity to have a greater balance. Some may be tipping too far into the divine feminine, but yes, men have a lot of problems with repressed feelings, with programming about what they should be like and should not be like, type A programming, left brain mentality, the duality of us versus them, and of course there's the fighting instinct, which is brought out at a very early age through wars and manipulation of the youngest population. Now they're working on babies through the television set to sell, cornflakes and things to babies. Right as they come out of the womb, the mom comes home and they don't even want you to breastfeed because they have fluoride in the baby food. So these are things that people in general are not aware of, and by raising our awareness, we can make subtle corrections in our own lives. We can't change other people's lives. We know that. We can only raise our own vibration. And so when we raise our own vibration, we find that others' vibrations are raised around us, and that raises the collective.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's why it feels so important for us to be working on ourselves more and more as we refine these barriers that we have and become almost instantly now, it seems, that we become, as we work on them, almost instantly we recognize it. And that's a huge gift. I think back maybe even 10 years ago or something like that, it would take me a little bit of while to figure out what actually was even going on in myself. And now I see, it comes up instantly. Here I've been triggered, there's something I'm resisting, and I'm able to look at it. And that that feels like that's a beautiful gift of this whole ascension work, or this whole personal spiritual work, that working on these barriers, that it does it does bring huge gifts with it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I like the way that you're framing that, because the way that we generally see things is that we are confronted with our own weaknesses, and then there's the imaginary pain of releasing them. But really, as you said, it's the gift of having the ability to see that which is up for us to release and let go of.
Yeah.
And so that is the shedding of the onion skin, peeling away the layers, and they get deeper and deeper and deeper. And sometimes it seems like a lesson that I've learned 30 or 40 years ago will come back on a higher level,
right,
but it will be confronting me in my face, and there is that moment of, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah.
You know, do I do this thing that I'm accustomed to doing and that I know is going to be taking me down a road that I'll probably not care for? And so, you know, we're faced with these choices, and there are opportunities to see.
Right.
And the faster we can see them and release them, the quicker we step on the accelerator of our own evolution. So we are in the driver's seat.
Right.
It's about taking back, empowering ourselves, taking back our power from the driver, which has been the mind. The mind has been geared to take over the car, the driving of the car. So the soul and the emotions and the essence is sitting in the back seat, and we've got some kind of wacky driver that's drunk, driving all over the place, hitting lampposts,
Mm-hmm.
and doing crazy things, and our poor little essence and soul is in the back, flying around in the back seat, going, "Oh my God, we got to get control of the driver. Get that driver out of there." But the mind is so powerful that it thinks it knows everything, and so we just have to know that the mind is the slowest.
That's a good way to put it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It actually operates at the slowest speed. So if we're using our mind or our left brain to process information, we're not decoding reality as it is. We're simply seeing the surface events of things, and our brain is following a wiring, a conditioning, a conditioned response, which is not truly reality. We're not seeing things as they truly are. So we're wearing dark or rose-colored spectacles, and sometimes it can be a little difficult to get to the driver's seat, but eventually the essence and the soul begins to experience, by following the path of bliss and joy and creativity, eventually it will get to the driver's seat and relegate the mind to its proper place, which is for analytical and informational purposes.
And so the bottom line really is, the gauge is, are you feeling good? How are you feeling? How are you feeling today? How are, being in your bliss, how are you feeling, right? Because that's like, if you're feeling joy, and if you're feeling good, and if you're feeling in your bliss and your creativity, and you're in that space, then you know that you are in a higher vibrational place. Then all of a sudden, when a barrier comes up, or there is something that's showing up where it's making you feel off or anxious or tense or sad or angry, go in and process it immediately. Clean it up, get rid of it to go back to the bliss.
Absolutely. And, I've had numerous people on my show who practice non-dual philosophy or advice. And Pamela Wilson is one in particular that I just love. And the that I get from this is that in each moment you can sense with your intuitive self, the solar plexus, whether you are stressed or something feels right or not. And if there's any pressure or any feeling of uncomfortableness, then that guides me to look at that a little more closely and say, well, is this something I really need to do? Is this something I want to do? Is this going to bring me joy? sometimes, it's just a matter of having to go to the store. But there are times when that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
And so you have to then think, okay, well, let's prioritize. Is this really essential to my survival? And if it's not, and I'm doing something that's creative, then that's the higher choice in that moment. But another one of my guests that I like a lot, Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about this constantly, and he says that basically, we need to follow our bliss. And we can do that in each moment of the now. The mind wants to continue things in a linear basis as if whatever is happening now is what's going to happen for the rest of our lives. And that's one of the things that we need to unravel by taking the control of the driver's seat back from the mind. We're not in a linear situation. We're only in the now, and we're in many nows simultaneously. So, in a sense, this now has already happened. The only thing I can do is be more conscious of being a player or an actor on the stage of this now. But in a sense, it's already happened, and the future has occurred. So we can tap into and align with higher possibilities. And the now is actually fluid. So when the mind starts to come up with ideas like, it's always going to be this way, well, that's just programming, and the simple shift is nothing is ever going to be the same twice. Everything is literally created from a faster reality, from faster, higher realities, instantaneously in each moment of now. So the way that I see that in daily life is if I look out at the trees and the mountains and all that, I see what appears to be a continuum. They're always there. The trees have been there for 40 years. But the reality is, in each moment of now, they are literally being created from a faster reality. Call it the etheric realms or the vacuum. And everything is literally being recreated in each moment. Our bodies are being recreated. Our cells are being created. It's just sheer fact that every 24 hours the cells die. You have a completely new body. And so we can renew our thoughts and our minds with refreshing ideas rather than stale old ideas. And that will change the neurons and the firing in the brain. So that's really the simple thing, and that's the essence of addictions as well. You mentioned in my bio there that I've had numerous addictions over the years, from alcoholism and drugs and various other things. And that's been a very painful process. And I think it's important that we start talking about these things a little bit more, because it's the elephant in the room.
Yeah, and can I say too that I was a drug addict myself, so I know about suppressing and numbing the pain so that I don't have to feel, because there was just so much to feel, there was so much pain to feel that there was just too much. And at that point in time, for me, which was I don't know, about 13 or so, 17 years ago. When I first really opened up that kettle, that's what I call it, open up that kettle, to really feel all the pain, and it was really overwhelming. It was really overwhelming that I wanted to check out. Yes,
absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, because I think that so many of us, if you want to label yourself as a light worker or as an ascended person or an indigo or a crystal or whatever labels you want to use or not use, a spirit having a human experience, we're empathic for sure. And that ability as children allows us to see and experience things that other people don't see or have forgotten how to tap into. And so when that begins to be stuffed, we're no longer in touch with the true reality from the other dimensions. So, then we become and we're so sensitive. I was so sensitive as a child that as a baby, I would thrash when my father picked me up, and everybody else could pick me up and I'd laugh and giggle. and he had some repressed sexual desires that I was picking up.
Oh.
And it, I didn't find that out, of course, until many, many, many years later, that he had those. And, when he was around 69 or so, he confessed all of this.
Wow.
And so it all made sense. And I was so empathic as a baby that I could sense just about anything. And so it takes work now to unlearn what society and peers and so on have taught me, so that I can live fully from my empathic or right brain side and my intuitive self, which for me is kind of like a gut feeling in the solar plexus.
And so, since you're so sensitive and you know this now, and all the experiences that you've had, from your childhood, do you find too that you pick up other people's stuff every now and then?
Oh yes. Yes, and I'm not real good at shielding myself. I mean, I know all the techniques. I have studied spirituality for 30 or 40 years, and I know all the right things to do. But I'm kind of like the tarot, the fool in the tarot deck. I go gaily forward, and I just step out into the air. And fortunately, for the last 61 years and 30 years living with HIV and AIDS and drug addiction and alcoholism, I have managed to step on something solid, or at least that has appeared to be solid. And actually, if I wanted to continue that analogy, I would say that I'm stepping on things that are more metaphysical and spiritual, that are actually disappearing under my feet, and I'm getting more comfortable with the feeling of floating or flying.
Yeah.
But yes, the addiction is so prevalent in our society, and it's subtle. It's subtle, and it's natural. And the other thing I wanted to say about our experiences is that we need to forgive ourselves. It is vital that we embrace every aspect of our lives from birth to the present, because it's a continuum, and there is no such thing as birth or death. Spirit is flowing, and so the illusion is that we're born and we die. But the truth of the matter is that it is all a continual experience in the now. And so until we embrace the dark aspects of what we've done and see them clearly, we can't really move forward, because we've got our feet nailed to the floor. So for instance, many people, we experiment with drugs and with sex and bisexuality and being gay and this and that and the other thing, and or many people are raped. I mean, this is a very common thing. I've had numerous guests on my show talk about how as children they were raped by their parents or neighbors or whatever, and have had to process that and have grown from it. So it's really vital to, in addition to doing this clearing of the negative emotions, to continue to go deeper and know that there is nothing hiding out that's going to surprise us, because that's what will knock us off our feet.
Especially nowadays, as the energies and as the more light and as things are moving faster, is continuing, because we're coming to a place where like Amelia said in the planetary update, our emotions are a manifesting center, and so if we have negative emotions, negative thoughts, or it doesn't matter if you sit there and try to do positive affirmations all day long. If you have negative emotions and that's not in congruency, then that's what you're going to be manifesting.
Exactly. And so it's largely a process of moving the unconsciousness that is programmable by those who run society and the rest of it. We don't need to put some labels on them. To the conscious levels, and that's what we're doing. We're moving from unconscious collectiveness, the unconscious collective, which has been programmed and directed without its awareness, to conscious awareness. And so many of us are experiencing a return to a higher level of consciousness, and these cycles are spiraling around faster, as you said. So it is really important to move out of denial about what we have done, quote unquote, because for whatever reason, we were guided by our team, call it angels, guides, spirits, whatever. We've been guided by our team to do everything that we have done up until that moment. So there is nothing to do but love everything that we have done, even and especially the horrible things.
I love that.
I do
love
too.
that.
I love
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can easily pat ourselves on the back for the good stuff because that's, acceptable to acknowledge in society, and we're encouraged to, you did such a great job, my goodness, you won a gold medal and all that.
Yeah.
But it's the subterranean, unconscious levels that we really, as evolving souls and essences, and transitioning into a whole new reality that has never been before, as far as we know, need to acknowledge, and that's the truly painful part. And a lot of people might need some help with that.
Right. Lance, I'm wondering how I know you are creating a healing center in Placerville in California. Mm-hmm. Has that been established yet, or is that still in the works? I'm just interested in how you work with other people.
Okay. Well, I operate from the basic premise that I am in a higher dimension. Call it what you will. That I am a channel for higher conscious energies. Right. And so no matter what I do or where I go or who I talk to or the nature of the situation, whether it's, talking to somebody that's at a store or whatever it is, I am, again, this is not the personal I, Lance. It is the vehicle that is allowing healing and higher consciousness to affect everything around me. So I'll tell you where my healing experience comes from. About 35 years ago or so, I was in that esoteric school, which you mentioned, studying the ideas of G.I. Gurdjieff and his pupil, P.D. Ouspensky. And the basic premise of Gurdjieff's work was that man is not conscious as he is. He has the capability of completing himself and becoming conscious, but he must work at it. And one of the biggest obstacles to consciousness were negative emotions. And Gurdjieff had a whole, he had it all laid out as to how the human psychology works, that there's an emotional center, positive and negative, a physical center, intuitive, a instinctive moving, and emotional. And so one of the biggest ideas that I enjoyed was that there's no real place for negative emotions. The emotional center is not, the negative side is not for negative emotions, it's simply a discerning, it's like polarity. And if you drop polarity down to a lower vibration, you have duality. And if you throw ego in there, then you have wars and fights and perpetual arguments that can never be healed, because ego is not going to allow itself to be wrong. It's like a turtle that's on its back. It's constantly striving to right itself. So that's what ego does. So about 35 years ago, I was in this school for about 4 or 5 years studying these ideas, and I moved up to their ranch in Northern California. And one of the people I knew turned out to be somebody that I knew for years and years and years. And she went on to get her PhD and work with disabled children. Well, she was involved with a healing group called the Healing Friends. And I was writing her, and she invited me to join the group. And I think this was about 15 years ago. It's time kind of has...
Yeah.
I'm not quite... I can quote time, and then it's like, oh, no, it wasn't 15. It was 20 years ago. Or it was, so you know that I'm... don't hold me to this, but it was about 15 years ago. And she invited me to be one of the healers in the healing group. Well, I had no formal training. I was still using drugs, lightly, but I was still using them. And I wrote her back, and I told her that. And I said, if you can accept me as I am, with all of the, warts and everything, then I would be happy to join. And she wrote me back the most beautiful, empowering letter, email about that, telling me why she felt I was a healer, and I got it.
Wow.
And so I joined the group. It's a private group of largely women. There's one man. There have been a couple of guys on there, very sensitive men. Martin Brofman was one of them for a while. He has a school in Europe for healing. And these are all professional healers who have, some of them have their own practices, or they have a actual place where they go to. So I joined the group, and that's where I have learned so much from doing remote healing privately with a small group of people that are located all over the planet. And and in fact, this can segue into the story about Zany Mystic. So my friend Valentine, I would post things to the group that were, about consciousness and that stuff. I'd love to share information. I get excited about that. Mm-hmm. And she said, Lance, you're just a Zany Mystic.
Oh, that's interesting.
And when I first got onto Yahoo about 15 years ago or so, starting to dig into all of the spiritual stuff, I adopted the moniker of Zany Mystic. So that's how that came about.
So Lance, this woman, who wrote you back that beautiful letter, right? And you had told her, if you can accept me. Yes. How much time after she said yes, you're accepted in, did you actually stop doing the drugs?
Good question. Very good question. Well, I was using methamphetamine at the time, and I had kind of, again, like the fool in the tarot deck, I was in San Francisco, and I just stumbled across one major dealer after another, and I was about to run out, and I thought, well, if I run out, I'll just stop. Well, not knowing how difficult it is to stop any addiction. And so I was in the healing group for about 3 or 4 years at the time when I got arrested. And I just disappeared from the healing group, and I couldn't get hold of anybody, and I couldn't get out. And so I was arrested twice. I was warned by an angel who told me everything that was going to happen, but I had to ask the questions. It wasn't. This is the strange thing about asking for help.
Yeah.
I think that the realms that are assisting us cannot just give out information. It has to. It's kind of like a game of hide and seek. And so what the angel told me was that, well, I can't really tell you, but you can ask me questions.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and so I would ask a question, and I would say, is that close? And he would give me hints. And so over a period of about 20 or 30 minutes, I heard that I would be arrested twice, that I would be in 3 live-in programs, and other things that were going to occur in the very near future. And towards the end, he, when the limit of the information that I could accept or be, given was running out, he said, I'm telling you this so that you don't lose hope.
Oh, wow.
And then the person who was channeling that angel kind of came out of it, and he didn't remember anything that had happened, but I did. And within 30 days, I was arrested. And that was the beginning of my, coming to terms. I mean, I had to have a brick hit me on the head, only it was like a flying house from the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
And the Wicked Witch didn't die right away either, by the way.
Yeah.
She took a long time to go.
Yeah.
So I was in jail, and I met another angel while I was in jail, a black man who had called himself Catman. Now, it's all in my book, Tales of a Zany Mystic, which is available at Amazon.com.
And by the way, we should be having your book on the Global Ascension Center website store, by the way, Lance.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Because I'm using the proceeds of the book, which are, as you know, you don't make any money off of a book, really. Mm-hmm. But I could make money off of the book. Every penny of that money and everything that I get from donations is going into the Healing Center.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So don't let me forget to tell you how the Healing Center came about.
Yeah.
So I almost got off on a sidetrack there. Well, read the book and you'll find out about the angel stories. So the Healing Center. So Valentine had invited me into the group. I had disappeared from the group. I was let out after one weekend off of a felony drug charge of dealing methamphetamine, and I was caught with 10 ounces of it. I mean, it was no small amount. I had just kind of been gaily moving forward and supplying, the upwardly mobile gay crowd in San Francisco, and they were some fun people. I had some good times with them. But I finally then I was arrested the second time. And it wasn't so easy to get out that time. Well, Catman was in there at the same time I was, and you'll have to read about it in the book because the chances of him being arrested 2 months later at the same time and meeting up with him in the recovery aspect of the jail that I was assigned to are probably 1,000,000,000 to 1.
Huh.
And I don't want to spend too much time on that story because, it'll spoil the experience for people. But when I got out, I wrote to the group and I told them what had happened. I wrote to the Healing Friends and I told them I'd been arrested for drugs, and I came clean, and I was completely forgiven. I mean, these are the most loving, angelic people on the planet.
Huh.
And of course, Valentine I knew from 35 years ago when she was in the esoteric school with me. She and her husband both had gone through the same experiences of studying Gurdjieff and Ouspensky. So we had been in touch all those years. So I was forgiven for that. Well, so then at about 10 years into the healing group, one of the gals, June Kaminsky, started a new moon manifestation. She said, well, you can manifest things if you state your intention on the new moon. Well, I'd never heard of this before. Now, so many things I haven't heard of. It's like, I feel like a bozo. The clown with his red nose of my story. And so she started this new moon manifestation. Well, I went through several rounds of this, which I'm a Virgo, and once I do something, you point me in a direction. I'm like a horse that just keeps plodding forward.
I'm sorry, but I have to say this. A Virgo and a drug addict, that must have been horrifying.
Oh, my gosh, yes. But I was very neat about it. I cleaned up after myself.
Oh, my God.
But seriously, it was a trail of disaster. And it wasn't just that. It was a lot of things. It was everything. I could tell you stories about the dark side that would curl your hair, and about other dimensions and parallel realities. But I'm saving that for my next book.
Good. Yeah.
So anyway, June had this new moon manifestation. Well, I had a vision of a healing center. Now, this was, mind you, about, I'd say, a good 5, 6, 7 years ago when I posted that manifestation that I would have a healing center because I saw it. And it was futuristic. It was right where the house is that is being converted to a healing center. The original house that was on this property in the vortex, it's a spiritual vortex. It is high energy. Everybody that comes onto the property says the same thing. Wow. And so I put that out there. Well, I left that up for about a year to a year and a half. Being a creature that doesn't like to change too much, I just left it up there. But I saw it, and it was like the Monsanto house at Disneyland. Very similar to that, and part of it was underground, and we were using quantum things. There were devices that were being used in one room. There were other people participating, and it was really quite futuristic and kind of Pleiadian, you might say. Yeah. And so eventually I rewrote it, and I wrote that out. I figured, well, the healing center hasn't happened, so I might as well just, focus on the book. And the book came about, but it never sold many copies. I gave away more. It cost me several $1,000s to self-publish. And even though I have a great review on the back by Barbara Hand Clow, who's a friend of mine, I'm not very good at marketing myself. And so this is one of the things that I'm coming to terms with now in this spiral, because I need to take responsibility for my creation. And it can bring in an income which will empower the healing center. So anyway, this story kind of goes on. Anelia came here a while back, 6 months ago or so, and we did some ritual and some creation with Gaia Sophia to create a healing center. And I don't think Anelia knew this whole backstory that I just shared with you, that I'd already created it through the Healing Friends as one of my new moon manifestation intentions. And so I had left this house, the original house that was here. Some of it was built from lumber brought up from the American River that had been a bridge that had collapsed. And I was just going to leave it there until it rolled down the hill and disappeared. When we shifted the energy, and I really got that I am a guardian for this vortex, my dog and I are both, she's participating in this. She leads me around the property and guides me. And she has a higher self that's extremely powerful. I mean, sometimes she's an Egyptian goddess, and sometimes she's something else. And
how fun!
Yeah, I mean, it's really exciting. And so when Anelia and I shifted the energy here, everything changed. And somebody showed up who was able to remove the deck off the back. There was a 50-foot deck that had rotted and needed to be removed before anything could happen. And he happened to be a friend who was low on work, so I was able to pay him a small amount of money to do that. And he's continued to do the construction and is working on it. And when he replaced the front door, and we actually chose the front door with a little window in it at the top, it was like a portal to another dimension. That door is like a portal into the healing center. But the healing center is the property, this land, this whole area is the healing center. And so since it's connected to the globe and it's part of Gaia Sophia, I can't claim any responsibility for anything that happens here that's positive, other than the fact that I'm being empowered to do it, to act as the conduit. But it is really the vortex that's doing the healing. And I have seen this happen over and over, where I'll invite somebody over and they're having personal problems, and then everything just gets smoothed out, and I'll do a reading for them, or we'll talk about something, or I'll, do some silly little thing, and it's different every time, and the people are healed just by being on the property. So I now have a clear vision of what needs to happen with the small house. It's a one-bedroom house. And what needs to happen to get it to the point where it can be a functioning healing center. And it'll be painted in indigos and magentas and subtle colors like, that appeal to, the highest self and to healing. And fountains and crystals, the whole thing. And I have local healers who are able to participate. And so I can see now that the next step is to get the funding in place to continue with the construction, because it's going to cost a few $1,000s to replace the 2 decks and do the exterior work and the painting, and I'll be doing a lot of that myself, and I'll be asking people on my website when it's up if they want to participate.
Oh, good.
But, whether it's, of course it would be great to have contributions to the Healing Center to get it going, so I can continue more rapidly, because we're approaching the end of 2012, and as I see it, as I'm feeling or sensing into it, I thought I was going to be walking up the crystal staircase and be gone. That's how my magical thinking works.
Okay.
And then I also did 23 radio shows with Liara from Operation Terra. Oh. And I don't know if any of you know her work, but she operates under the premise that we'll all be lifted. So, everybody's got a different idea. Yeah. And another one of my friends, Michael St. Clair, who lives in France, says that, we're going on. And he's done the astrology out into 2020 and 2030. So,
have you talked to George Cavazos?
George Cavazos, yes. I've had done about 5 or 6 shows with George Cavazos. Mm-hmm. In fact, this is kind of fun, and I'm going to put a plug in for myself here. He was in the middle of writing his book, Our Universal Journey, which is out now. It's a wonderful book. It's shocking, it's irreverent, and it is the truth, as I see it. Mm-hmm. And they were under some time constraints with the edit. And I just randomly wrote to him and said, well, if you want me to put, because I had edited my own book, Tales of a Zany Mystic, and I said, if you want me to put my eyes to it to just look for obvious things, I'd be happy to. Well, George and Cynthia called me and said, we've been talking about this, and we'd really like you to do the edit. We've had the people who were going to do it professionally dropped out. We have, due to funding constraints, we have 2 weeks to get it done.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, I'll do it. This is an opportunity. Okay. And so I edited the entire book and got it back to them right on the 2-week mark.
Wow.
And got, maybe 85-90% of the edits, the major edits done. And, that required a lot of balancing because, it required, you have to keep George's personality in this, right. And yet there were certain things that I could see could be phrased more effectively and more empowering in other ways. So I had to just completely put aside my admiration for George and his work and just come at this like, okay, I'm the one that's doing the edit, and they can make the choices as to what they keep and don't keep.
Yeah. Now,
it turned out great.
Did it turn out great? Because George and Cynthia were at ECETI last year. I don't know if you had a chance to meet them in person.
No,
they did travel around, and it was an awesome event up there last year in 2011. And but George is also one of the ones that believes that the planet is, that he is staying with Gaia. That's his choice, is that he is staying with Gaia, but that the planet is turning into a star, right?
Yes.
Into a blue star, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
And then his time frame is not 2012, not December 21st.
2013.
Exactly. And as he sees it, it will be the solstice or the equinox, the first, of March. So he said that as far as he can see into his future, there's nothing here but light at that point. And that actually, see, all of these things make a lot of sense if you can think multidimensionally, because that's how it works.
Yeah.
That there may be realities that will appear to continue on as if nothing had happened. Mm-hmm. But there will be other realities where Earth has gone through a black, a portal and entered out into the white hole universe. Nassim Haramein has proven to me, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we're in a black hole universe.
Yeah.
And he has come up with the quantum physics that ties into the flower of life, which Drunvalo Melchizedek talks about and has been teaching for so many years, and it all comes together if you think about it. Mm-hmm. So the reality that we end up in may be multidimensional, but since this is the end of an age, I'm thinking that many of us will be returning, as George said, because this is as low as it gets.
Right.
This is the major densification and the stripping down of our DNA. We, as he says on the radio shows that he's been on with me and his other shows, we have reached the major densification. We knew that our DNA would be stripped from 12 to 2 or less, and they've snipped it even more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the controllers, the negative ETs have, you call it the demigods and the archons.
Mm-hmm.
They have snipped us and maneuvered and manipulated us to the point where we don't know whether we're coming or going. So we have to be really awake and aware to even know where we're at. And
we have to be really conscious, right? We have to
exactly.
Stay really conscious, stay really awake, and process what's in front of you.
Yes.
It's like I had a conversation with Amelia, I think it was like a week or so ago, and I was saying to her, you know, it really doesn't matter. Like before, I would feel like, you know, whenever I would feel like I was affected by a negative entity or whatever, I would give my power away to that situation or to that entity, where now I don't feel that way anymore. Now it's like whatever shows up in my reality, whatever's there for me is mine to process and mine to clear through. Period. That's it.
Yes.
And, you know, it makes it just really easy after that.
Yeah.
It's like I took ownership and said, that's it. If it's here, it's mine. I'm clearing it. I'm moving through it, you know?
Yes. Brilliant.
So, mm-hmm.
Absolutely brilliant. And, you know, I did the S training in the, I think it was the late 70s, it was early 80s. After I got through the Gurdjieff school, I ended up doing S and the 6th day with Werner Erhard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically the essence of that, is that we have a story that we tell ourselves about our history, and that justifies everything that we do, all of our weaknesses. But as you said, if it's in my space, I own it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about taking responsibility for our own selves. And if each soul and essence did that, there would be an instant transformation on the planet.
Yep.
Instant. And that's why at first, you know, I kind of resisted what Amelia was saying about, you know, because I tend to see, I tend to think in terms of slightly magical thinking, that everything is going to transform instantly because the atoms, molecules, and quarks that comprise this reality are shifting in many worlds simultaneously so fast that they create all these parallel realities. And as those collapse, we're going to be merging into the reality that is the highest that we can know. And that will depend, according to a friend of mine, that will depend largely on the vibration in the moment that we're able to hold consistently.
Yeah. You know,
so that puts it all back on us.
It does, and you know that's the picture even of George's work too, because he says, you know, in his line of work, he says, "Do it yourself." Do it yourself.
Yeah, I love him. I just love George.
You know,
he is fabulous, just wonderful. I mean, one of my favorite people on the whole planet. I mean, every time I talk to him on the radio, it's just a thrill. And in the past we've done 3 shows in a row. And the first one we're kind of like, you know, getting to know each other, and the second one's a little more conversation. And by the third one, we've just let our hair down. Of course, he's bald and I'm balder. He shaves his head and I'm losing my hair. So there ain't much hair left to let down. And we just have fun. And he's a terrific. I just of all the people that are sharing information on the planet now, Amelia is at the top of my list. One of the tops of my list. Barbara Hand Clow's another, and George Kavasilis, and there are a few others. I'm just not, you know, thinking of them at the moment, but especially Amelia.
Yeah.
When I first heard her original share that came out,
and I'm talking about the Bill Avalon.
Yes.
The Bill Ryan.
Exactly. Because I'm constantly looking for potential guests, and what I'm looking for is the truth. So what I try to listen for is what resonates with me. And when someone resonates with me really strongly, I get so excited that I have to send them an email and say, "You've got to be on my show." I have to get to know you. I have to talk to you. And so Anelia was one of those people. When I heard her the first time, I just was absolutely blown away. And I thought, I have to get her on the show. Well, it didn't happen right away.
Right.
But it did happen eventually. And it's been an ongoing relationship. And then when I went to her meet and greet in Yuba City, I think, or near here. Anyway,
in December last year or something.
It was wonderful. Oh, my gosh, such wonderful people. And then she announced she was having a meet and greet in Santa Barbara. Well, I'm a homebody. I'm a Virgo. And, you know, I have a dog, and I don't travel much, and I get kind of stuck in a rut, to put it mildly. And so I, for some reason, it occurred to me to ask her, well, how are you getting to Santa Barbara, which is my hometown? I was born there.
Oh, I can see already what you're going to say.
Yeah. And she wrote back, I'm driving. Would you like to come with me?
I knew it.
And so, you know, then the spot was on me. It's like, okay, I have no reason to say no, but but they all came up in my head. Reasons why I couldn't go down there.
Yeah, of course.
You know, my HIV, my medications, my you know, I'm out of town.
Your story that you're telling yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And those are all the reasons why not. Yeah. But that trip down to Santa Barbara with Anelia turned out to be one of the most pivotal and wonderful experiences that I have had in years.
Now, how long did that drive take? A couple hours?
Oh, well, from Sacramento to Santa Barbara, it was about a 10-hour trip.
Wow. Oh, my God.
And then there was an additional snafu in that I was staying with a friend of mine, Randy, that I had met at a Mount Shasta conference about 10 years ago when we went to see David Icke and Jean-Claude Coven and Jasmine. And I've had Jean-Claude Coven and Jasmine on the show, but I never could get David Icke. He was too big for me. But I met one person at that conference, and we remained friends all those years, and she invited me to stay at her house. Well, that turned out to be just a magical experience. I got to say hello to my ex-wife, who's 5 years older and suffering from a colostomy, series of horrible surgical events that are just, it's a nightmare. But she's still alive and well. I got to touch base with her, and I felt, you know, the healing energy will come through. All I have to do is spend time with her and just love her as I do.
Yeah.
And that's how I do healing. It's just, you let go. I just let go, and I let God. So let's just put it simply. And those higher energies are just looking for an opening. And if we get out of the way, and we just allow ourselves to be with another person authentically, that is the healing process. That is the essence of love that can come through us, and miracles happen.
And the word allow is the key, because it's with everything. It's if we allow to feel an emotion, if we allow to process an energy, if we can just allow to be what is.
Yes, absolutely. That is the key to all of this. You have just hit the biggest gold mine of all, and it seems so simple. It sounds like Be Here Now, Mayor Baba and Ram Dass and the rest of it, but it is really, I have said this for years, I don't know where I picked it up, but it's the quote that I got, allowance is the way of the avatar.
Yes, and allowance was the woman that allowed you when you were still addicted to drugs.
Yes.
And she allowed you to be, she accepted you.
Yes.
And that was on that big scale, but if we can do it on all the levels, on the subtle levels, on the big level, if we can just allow.
Yes, and the healing process then begins and continues, because then we're not in resistance and we're not in breakdown. And so somebody has to see the higher self of the soul that's there, knowing that at some point that addiction will cease to be. Mm-hmm. Because in the larger context of creation, the details, the content will work itself out. As long as somebody larger than ourselves can see us for who we are, the God Goddess Gaia Sophia within can see that, and we're all that.
Right.
So there's nobody that, there's no excuse or reason why we should not allow anyone to be the God Goddess, all that is, no matter where they're at, seemingly in the continuum of linear time and space.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, now there have been all these different healing modalities that have come back, I'm a sound healer, for instance, and this is like old Egyptian, also even much, much older than that.
Mm-hmm.
Atlantis, Lemuria. These healing modalities that come back in the last 20 years
mm-hmm.
and have become prevalent maybe in the last 10 years. But I think as you're talking, it just hit me. I thought this is so interesting because you're talking about allowance, about actually, Anelia talks about allowing it to be and then inviting sources, love and light, just to come through you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to heal whatever at the moment is ready to be healed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think, Eckhart Tolle, who's very close to my heart, talks about just being in presence and just allowing, actually the God energy to come through, presence of being. And it seems to be this time in our evolution that just this very, very pure, very simple a way of connecting to Source through and allowing the healing energies to come through and vibrations to come through, that is made now available to just the common man, the man who wants it so dearly with his heart or her heart, and is ready to say, "I open my arms," and then all of a sudden it's this call is heard.
Yeah,
on a really wide scale.
Yes, absolutely, on a global scale. And the situation as I see it, which you reminded me of, is that there will be a very short time when healing will be necessary. So when I'm talking about establishing a global healing center here, it's really the energies of the vortex that's I'm looking at as the partnership with Gaia Sophia, as being a special area. Now, the goat doctor of Sierra Nevadas healed thousands of people right on the other side of the American River, where I overlook the American River. And he was a psychic with his mother, and he wore goat skins and long hair, and he was a Rosicrucian. They were both Rosicrucians, so they knew the secrets. And people would come from miles around. They'd come in carts. They'd come in crutches. They'd go in, and with 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, they'd be walking out healed. I mean, completely healed, broken bone, you name it. He healed everything.
This is an area near you?
Yes, I can spit practically to his grave and his house where he healed thousands of people. And this was all in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and maybe beyond that. But there's a book called The Goat Doctor of the Sierra Nevadas, and I haven't finished it yet, but it documents this, and it's utterly amazing. And the thing that I'm seeing about the healing process is that there will be a necessity for a very brief period of time as these shifts start to hit the masses, when healing will be required. In a sense, it will be those who are holding the higher vibration, and all the healers and all the light workers and everything will be the healers. But what it is it's holding the perfect, the divine template in place so that people can just instantly release all the darkness. And I don't think that there will be a long period when a healing center will be necessary. So even though I'm establishing a healing center and I'll have healers come in and energy workers, because I'm not going to do all of that, I'm just here to facilitate and provide whatever I do as it unfolds on a daily basis. I've been set up here as the guardian of this place, and I've done a lot of energy work on this to establish this area. Trust me on that one. That's in the book too. And but as we approach 2012 and the veils start to really dissolve and people are awakening, the whole planet is awakening en masse, there will be horrors that will be unleashed, perhaps. Horror stories about what has happened. And there may be a short period of time, I'm looking at, I look at 3 months to a year, tops, when there will be a need for people to hold the space of clarity and healing and love. And
allowance.
And that's basically all it is. And that will allow the higher realms to work through all of us. On the radio shows that you're doing, I mean, I just so admire the work that you're doing here to bring Anelia's work and other people's work into the focus, because to me, this is a collective process, and we need to start. It's like bubbles in the bath. When you first get in, there's thousands of bubbles, millions of bubbles. And as you lay in the bath, they start to pop, and eventually there's just 20 or 30. And when I was a little kid, I remember, I don't want all the bubbles to go away, and sometimes I'd run some more water and all that. And so that's kind of what we do. We become more fragmented, and we play around with the various realities, but really, if you just let the bubbles pop, they start joining together. And as higher beings, we are joining together regardless of the nature of the experiences we've had, dark and light, and regardless of the teaching and the way that we're impacting the world at this time. So it seems to me that, as Carl Kalaman points out, and Barbara Hancock and many others, that in alignment with the Mayan calendar, that we have already become unified in consciousness. It just is going to take time for the details to show up. And there will be a point at which the dominoes will start to fall. And I'm sensing that's very close now. I have some friends in that have in the radio show business who have told me to look for some kind of major financial event in September around the 12th, which happens to be on my birthday.
Oh, my God.
And I thought, well, that's synchronistic. And my birthday is also the day after 9/11, when, that travesty was pulled by the controllers. But it works on many levels. You can't look at anything and say this was bad, this was good, because on some levels that was created by the bankers and the presidents and the leaders and the Illuminati and beyond to consolidate power and take over in the other countries. It's part of a long-term plan that they have. On another level, it was created and designed by the higher realms as a symbol of duality and as a wake-up call to humanity. So, and it's still unfolding. We haven't seen the results yet of the impact of it. So, I used to get really my underwear in a bunch, thinking about,
was that pretty much last year? Because that's when mine were in a bunch last year around this time, September. I remember when the Occupy Wall Street movement began, and, during that time, and I was really waiting for the financial crash to happen, and I was irritated that it hasn't happened yet, and all this.
Right.
It was ridiculous,
Right, and I've been sensing for 10 years now that there's going to be a collapse. My father lived through the Great Depression, so I was constantly hearing about it, and do you know what? When I was a little kid, my father was an advanced soul. I come to respect and admire the sacrifice he made in bringing me here and then giving me this property for posterity, because it will go on after me, and I'll want to set up a trust, so that that others can continue to use it after I'm gone. So whatever I do here with the Healing Center will continue on after me, and I'm hoping that Anelia, I know she will help me with with setting that up.
Mm-hmm.
So that the property can continue as a kind of like a hub.
Mm-hmm.
If healing is needed, whatever's needed when I'm gone. Well, I also told Anelia I'll hang out here for a while after 2012 and 2013 as long as you need me. But let's get this show on the road so we can all move on and have a good time and party.
I hear you. Anelia, she really adores you, and that's really how we had it was really Anelia's idea to invite you to the Juice Bar show because of who you are and your amazing gifts. And it was just such a wonderful time spending with you today, Lance, and getting to know you and what amazing work you're doing and what amazing work you've done and will continue to do.
Right.
And and really appreciate it. And the one thing that I really want to know, I know that you're very passionate about a lot of things. So what is your zone of genius? What is your passion? What is your deep, deep passion?
Well, that's a very good question. I'd have to say that the most exciting thing to me is the discovery of new truths and empowering of humanity, that which empowers humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just give you a quick instance of that. I had a friend of mine, Carmen Bolter, is an Egyptologist. She's been on the show a few times, and she's been to Egypt about 28 times. And the last show that we did, she talked about a man named Valery Uvarov, who is building pyramids in Siberia. And I had no clue that this was going on, but they are using crystals and higher vibrational technologies. They're so far ahead of us, it's not even funny. And that's why the government demonizes them, because we have to be kept, we can't be allowed to know that, science has gone on and that they are actually empowering their citizens, not dumbing them down and trying to wipe them out. So there are some areas where these countries are empowering other humans. And, of course, that's happening here, too, to some level. But that is the battle. It's the dark and the light.
Mm.
And so I get excited when I discover that this is really working, that there are people out there doing things in this level that are raising the vibration of the planet, building pyramids to and not allowing anything in there that's that's GMO.
Mm-hmm.
It originally was designed by food growers to see what would happen with the food. Non-GMO, of course. Anybody that uses GMO food would be banned from participating, and they're going to feed it to the children to see if it changes their consciousness and awareness and their abilities.
Mm.
That is progressive.
Mm-hmm.
Empowering the children, not putting fluoride in the baby food and having television commercials that dumb the children down and brainwash them from the second they pop out of the womb. That is not my idea of where we need to be going. Wars need to stop. Killing needs to stop. All of the drug dealing that's being done by the major governments and the royal families needs to be brought out into the light of day and aired. And people need to find this stuff out and stop living in denial.
Mm-hmm.
So I get excited when I see breakthroughs like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very, very much for sharing that passion with you. I think all of us who are involved in, in the Ascension process in one way or another, and there are many, 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 and more and more and more.
Yes.
They share this passion with you. Yeah.
Yes.
And this was actually, this teleseminar was designed as also to have a Q&A, but I've been getting some messages from Louise that there haven't been any questions in the background.
Huh. Okay.
But I do have one that somebody wrote in.
Okay.
And before we close, because we're getting very close to the time of closing, I just wanted to ask you, a woman, Catherine from France,
okay,
who asked the question, what do you think about advices exercise and channelings on Autre Dimension, a French website. I guess she thinks you know about this.
Oh, well, this is the first I've heard of it.
Uh-huh.
I did pull it up on my computer before the show, but I didn't have a chance. I was fumbling around trying to get the phone number. It didn't print out on the, your schedule properly, so I had to go back on that. That's why I was late coming in.
Yeah.
But everything is timed perfectly.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So let's remember that, folks.
Yeah.
That there is nothing that does not happen in perfect synchronicity. Everything is happening just as it's supposed to, and that's the mindset that we can train our minds to understand when we're looking out into the projection and realize that everything comes from within. Mm-hmm. So back to this one, I haven't heard of it, so I will have to, that's all I can say is I'll look into it and see what I can find out, and if it's something that has great information, I'll spread it around the internet, like I always do.
Okay. Maybe I'll forward her question to you then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and Lance, where can people get in contact with you? Where can people find you at?
Oh, well, they can reach me by email at zanymystic59@yahoo.com. And if anybody wants a signed copy of my book, I'm selling them for $15 a piece plus shipping, and I'll send out a signed copy to anybody that requests one, and I'll just do that through the mail. I haven't been doing that, and I just need to start doing that. So I am offering that, and eventually I'll figure out how to add a crystal that I've had in my possession for 10 years that's been charging in this vortex. I'm going to include crystals with that for another $5. And so I'm working all of this out now, and I'm setting up a website, which is not ready yet. So I don't have the website information, but you can reach me through zanymystic59@yahoo.com, and you can listen to the show free at BBS Radio on www.firesidechat.com on Saturday nights at 7. It's 1 hour. And if you want to go to the free archives, I have a video producer who's been uploading all my shows for the last 5 or 6 years, and most of them are there. All the new ones are there, and that is on YouTube, and you go to Zany Mystic Radio. And it's produced by Promethean Reach, who is a wonderful video producer. He's getting all kinds of great information. He's got 4 channels, and he's getting work by Max Igan and other people that are truth tellers and way showers. So that's how you can reach me.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And the other thing that I just want to say that you do is that you also do book editing, right, for people
yes.
as far as for income
yes.
purposes, right?
Yes. And it'll be a reasonable amount. I have no idea, but it'll be a nominal amount to just do initial consultation, probably $25 or $30 to just talk to you for an hour or an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it takes, to see if you'd like to proceed with a book. There's so many people who have books written, spiritual books and metaphysical books, and I hear about this all the time, but they need help with the edit. And I am fully trained after doing the edit for George Skavasilis in 2 weeks on his book. It doesn't get any more complex metaphysically than his ideas.
No kidding. No kidding.
And it was just a pleasure to do that for them. And so I edited my own book, Tales of a Zany Mystic, and I edited his book, so that's my resume. And I'm willing to consult with people and to do a whole edit. At some kind of package price. We'll work that out as we go.
That sounds great, Lance.
And if people want to donate somehow to the Healing Center, I am accepting donations from people, and you can contact me by email to ask me how that's done, and I'll work out something where if people contribute $100 or more, that there's some kind of energy exchange that they can have. It will all come out, and it will work out beautifully.
That's wonderful.
But money is needed for the Healing Center. I think I have about $173 left to my name because I live on disability from AIDS. So I have a limited income, but the property is owned, and as I said, this place will go on in perpetuity if I can set that up, in time. And of course, it's not up to me. I'm just following directions.
Awesome. Thank you, Lance. It was just amazing to have you on, and don't be surprised if you're going to get a call from us again inviting you back.
I'd love to.
And the other thing is also, who knows, you might be getting a call from us as well to do further works with us as we evolve and expand.
I would love to. And, with 6 years of guests under my belt, if there's anything you guys need to know or want to share, I'll be happy to, share information. And if you need email addresses for guests that I've had on my show or anything at all, just write me an email and we will work together. This is a collaboration. It's a cosmic collaboration, folks. And we're all participating.
Yeah.
So let's all do this together because no one person can do it alone.
That's it. We're not meant to do it alone. That's not the time of aloneness.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thanks, Lance.
Yeah, thank you guys.
so
Thanks,
much,
Marianne and Cornelia.
You're welcome.
Love you all. Love Amelia.
And thank you, Louise, too, in the background.
Oh,
bye.
yes,
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. To fight it because that makes it more real.
Mm-hmm. So that's your processing. That's how you process your negative feelings, your negative emotions.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we're programmed to be, as you mentioned in the prelude, we're programmed to be negative. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest proponents of that is the television set, and movies. There is a horrendous amount of negative programming and subtle programming that is occurring at levels that we are not conscious of. We're not fully conscious at this level yet. We're moving towards it, towards full consciousness. But those who are in control of this particular planet know all of this and have known all of this, and it's been a very long, steady process of erosion of our human heart capability and of our ability to be empathic and feel. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's the ability to feel what another living life form, or an organic life form, is feeling that separates us, and our humor as well, which separates us from robotics and, just a heartless creation that is designed to degenerate and eventually fall apart, which is what's happening now.
And Lance, do you find that it's more difficult for men to feel?
Yes. Now, there's a caveat to that. Being gay, I've been allowed, through all my pain and imaginary pain and suffering about, and torment about society's judgments, and having to explore all these underground avenues, that people don't realize are out there for gay people, gay clubs and this and that and the other thing. I've been allowed to open my emotions pretty much all my life. Mm-hmm. And I think that has given me in particular, I can't speak for all gay people, but I think it's given many of us an opportunity to have a greater balance. Some may be tipping too far into the divine feminine, but yes, men have a lot of problems with repressed feelings, with programming about what they should be like and should not be like, type A programming, left brain mentality, the duality of us versus them, and of course there's the fighting instinct, which is brought out at a very early age through wars and manipulation of the youngest population. Now they're working on babies through the television set to sell, cornflakes and things to babies. Right as they come out of the womb, the mom comes home and they don't even want you to breastfeed because they have fluoride in the baby food. Mm-hmm. So these are things that people in general are not aware of. And
today our guest that we have on, I'm so excited to introduce him here in a minute because he is going to be setting the tone and setting the stage for lots of other people like him, beings like him that are co-creating this new paradigm with us. And there's many wonderful qualities that are going to come up today that are going to be shared with us. And so without further ado, I want to talk to you guys and tell you guys, the ones that don't know, about Lance White. Lance White was born in Santa Barbara, California in 1950. In 1983, he was told that he contracted HIV, and for over 30 years, he has miraculously transformed that experience of living with HIV and AIDS through aligning with spirit. In 2006, he was asked if he wanted to do a weekly internet radio show, and this marked the birth of his new show on BBS Radio. It's called A Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. For over 6 years, he has spoken with the foremost authorities on a wide array of metaphysical topics. In 2007, he wrote an irreverent account of his journey and descent through many, many dark nights of the soul called Tales of a Zany Mystic. And this book is offered at Amazon Books. His tale includes 5 years in an esoteric school studying G.I. Gurdjieff and P.D. Ouspensky. His story also chronicles decades of alcoholism and drug abuse, struggles with sexual identity as an openly gay male, encounters with angels, and ultimate triumph. The last few chapters are dedicated to discussing the various cycles which all come to an end this year. Reviews are unanimously positive and glowing. Today he is creating a healing center in Placerville, California that's designed to tap into the energies of a spiritual vortex documented scientifically and proven by the GOAT doctor of the Sierras. He's also writing a new book designed to empower those who are aligning with spirit to raise their vibration and move through the tumultuous waters with ease. Welcome to the Juice Bar, Lance White.
Oh, thank you, Kornelia. I'm delighted to be here. That was a wonderful introduction.
Yay, I feel like we're old friends, and I'm just so excited. I'm just giving you a big hug, and I'm glad that you're here.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here, too.
Wonderful.
Well, we're all family.
We are all family. And I just wanted to give you an introduction and welcome you in. And now what we're going to do is Marianne is going to share with us the planetary update that Anelia put together that the three of us then can discuss a little bit about where we are with everything.
Sure.
And then we'll go into digging into you. Yeah, so I bet we can all relate to this right now. What has your experience been, Lance, with what Anelia is talking about here?
Oh, she's calling it right on the money. I mean, I'm going through exactly what she's talking about. And for me, it seems that how this process works is that it's like numerous spirals within spirals. So there will be a period of time when the astrological and the energetic influences from the universe, the cosmos, are stimulating a certain kind of reaction. And then, as she said, we have all the control paradigms that are fighting furiously to retain and regain and take further control over humanity. Mm-hmm. So I'm finding that I'll go through a low period where it seems as if my consciousness is not as present and, things are just not going the way that I feel that they should be. The inspiration isn't there. And then I spiral out of it and go on this wonderful wave of bliss and following my creativity. So I have attempted to see how I can expedite raising my vibrations through these periods. Mm. And it really is as simple as making the choice.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been experiencing. And, of course, we have, full moons and new moons and so on and so forth. So there's a lot going on, and this is a particularly difficult time for me personally and for everybody that I know from the radio show, and it's also an enlightening time. There are discoveries being made that, we aren't hearing about over here in the United States, so that are very positive for the planet. So it seems that the key to this is, just as Ania said, to release the negative emotions, which are not real. There's no real place in the human physiology for negative emotions. We have an emotional center, but that is not designed to harbor negative emotions. The negative emotions are all learned. So anytime I'm in a negative state, I have to look at that and realize, well, this is my ego operating. There's something that my personality or my ego is not happy about. And so it's real easy to identify when I've slipped in my vibration just by looking at what is my compassion? What am I feeling? Am I feeling love in this moment? Am I noticing the spirit of the birds and the trees and the bees and all the wonderful nature spirits that are around me? And if the answer is no, then I know what I have to do. I just have to be aware. And I love the way Amelia put it, to allow. You allow the situation to be. You don't resist it. You don't try to. By raising our awareness, we can make subtle corrections in our own lives. We can't change other people's lives. We know that. We can only raise our own vibration. And so when we raise our own vibration, we find that others' vibrations are raised around us, and that raises the collective.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's why it feels so important for us to be working on ourselves more and more as we refine these barriers that we have and become almost instantly now, it seems, that we become, as we work on them, almost instantly we recognize it. And that's a huge gift. You know, I think back maybe even 10 years ago or something like that, it would take me a little bit of while to figure out what actually was even going on in myself. And now I see, it comes up instantly. Here I've been triggered, there's something I'm resisting, and I'm able to look at it. And that feels like that's a beautiful gift of this whole ascension work, or this whole personal spiritual work, that working on these barriers, that it does bring huge gifts with it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I like the way that you're framing that, because the way that we generally see things is that we are confronted with our own weaknesses, and then there's the imaginary pain of releasing them. But really, as you said, it's the gift of having the ability to see that which is up for us to release and let go of. And so that is the shedding of the onion skin, peeling away the layers, and they get deeper and deeper and deeper. And sometimes it seems like a lesson that I've learned 30 or 40 years ago will come back on a higher level, but it will be confronting me in my face, and there is that moment of, okay, what do I do now? You know, do I do this thing that I'm accustomed to doing and that I know is going to be taking me down a road that I'll probably not care for? And so, you know, we're faced with these choices, and there are opportunities to see. And the faster we can see them and release them, the quicker we step on the accelerator of our own evolution. So we are in the driver's seat. It's about taking back, empowering ourselves, taking back our power from the driver, which has been the mind. The mind has been geared to take over the car, the driving of the car. So the soul and the emotions and the essence is sitting in the back seat, and we've got some kind of wacky driver that's drunk, driving all over the place, hitting lampposts and doing crazy things, and our poor little essence and soul is in the back, flying around in the back seat going, oh my God, we got to get control of the driver. Get that driver out of there. But the mind is so powerful.
And who you are and your story and what you're doing and what your passion is.
Oh, right.
And all that good stuff.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm really looking forward to this discussion. So this is a planetary update for August 29th. That was 2 days ago. From Enelia. She sent this in to us. So I'm quoting her. As we move closer and closer to what our species considers to be an important moment in time, in other words, December 2012, we are going heavily into resistance, which is manifesting as barriers. When we think of barriers, we often think of something outside ourselves, something that is in our environment, something that stops us from doing something, a wall that stops us leaving a location or entering a location. Blocks and reasons why we can't do something reach somewhere or even sometimes the energy to accomplish an outcome. We are approaching the last hurdles in a linear time perspective to deciding upon our maximum potential experience in physical existence. Our decisions are based very often on our emotions. When these emotions run wild without checking what they are, we can make rash decisions or decisions that do not support our evolutionary journey. One of the crippling factors of Western society is that our emotions are second-class citizens. That only a small range of emotions that are broadcast and perpetuated in the media and in our society are fear, the desire to be loved. These two, the fear and the desire to be loved. Our emotions are the fuel behind our manifestation ability, and their connection is literal. So if fear is felt, fear situations are manifested in our reality. If wanting to be loved is felt, then we are manifesting the want and no love. That's why we're hitting barriers. These barriers we are hitting can have two purposes. One is that they are pointing the way to a positive outcome, or that they are stopping us from reaching a positive outcome. The way to tell them apart is to look at the barrier and your end result. What is it that is preventing you from achieving or reaching? If it is based on fear, anger, frustration, sadness, or anger, then it's a negative barrier. In other words, go in there and process those negative emotions, because the barrier is a program that is trying to stop you doing whatever it is that you came here to do. If, on the other hand, the barrier is filled with joy and love at the prospect of moving away from what you are trying to do, then it is pointing in a correct action. Stop your journey and move it in a different direction. Unquote.